It has finally happened. I'm Aniello Piro, and the Denver Broncos did something, and that something is big.
I'm Cody Roark. The Broncos, they landed their big fish, pun intended, and this time, the price was right.
I'm Nick Ferguson, and the panic is over. The panic is over. Hey.
Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Let's get into it, gentlemen.
From the South Stands, it's the Broncos Squad. Everything Denver Broncos every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Mile High City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Gear up and squad up. The Broncos Squad Show starts now.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Welcome on into your Locked On Broncos Squad Show right here on your Locked On Broncos YouTube channel, as well as the audio feed. As you can see here, Sayre Bedinger is not with us today. He is on assignment, as we like to say. And I'm gonna say, part of the reason why this move happened today is because Sayre's not here. Sayre has been the most passionate, I feel like, of all of us when it comes to pounding the table for the Broncos, and it's a bit poetic that Sayre is not able to join us here today as the Denver Broncos make their first big move of the offseason, and it is a huge one, trading for Miami Dolphins wideout Jaylen Waddle. The Broncos give up their first-round pick this year, which is, of course, 30th overall, along with their late third and fourth-round picks, but they're also getting a fourth-round pick back from Miami in addition to Jaylen Waddle. Cody, we made it, brother. it's a big move for Denver.
Yeah, feel for my guy Sayre. He's at a work conference right now, and he and I, we've been keeping in touch. It's like, hey, stand by in case something happens. And of course, the moment he's in an Uber to go to his work conference, the move happens. I'm like, you know what? I got you, my man. But Sayre and I are going to break down the deeper aspects of this trade on tomorrow's episode of the show that we have. We got a breaking news episode up already. Well, this is a huge splash. This is the Broncos. They went fishing and they got a big fish here in Jaylen Waddle. This makes them far more significant than the perception was if they didn't make a move. Like, the perception of this offseason has entirely changed based on this one move. And you know what? I'm here for it.
I'm with you. And we'll kind of dive into the optics, and obviously we'll probably talk a lot about this on the second show later this week of just the ripple effect of bringing in Jaylen Waddle. But I think let's kind of start with, the point that you just made, Cody. And Nick, I'll take it to you. Saving the offseason, right? Because, last week's shows, we're kind of sitting here on Tuesday, and it's okay, they didn't do anything in the first 24 to 48 hours. And then we get to Friday, and it's what the bleep is going on with this Broncos free agency period? What is going on here? And I'm not going to lie, I woke up yesterday because on Friday's show from last week, I was like, by the time we get to next Tuesday, do we think the Broncos will have made a move? And we all kind of had a good time with that. And I'm sitting there noon, 1 o'clock yesterday, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not going to make a move. Lo and behold, they make a big one here today with Jaylen Waddle that I think does, in theory, save the offseason, Nick.
Yeah, I don't want to say save the offseason because the offseason is still ongoing.
True.
You know that no one wins any Super Bowl titles in the offseason. But I will follow up what Cody said to open the show. The Broncos did cast a wide net, and they did pull in the big fish. Now, the interesting part of this Waddle being added to the Broncos roster, remember last year, the Broncos kept 5 receivers on the roster, right? And this is a conversation everyone needs to be having with this whole Jaylen Waddle situation. As you look at the Broncos roster as it currently is constructed, who will become the odd men out? Notice I didn't say singular, I said plural, because there are going to be some wide receivers who don't make this team. And the Broncos brought back LaJordan Humphrey. They had him one time, they released him, and they brought him back. Now, this was signal that maybe his job and some other wide receivers' jobs are not safe, but the Broncos needed a vertical threat, and now they have one. Marvin Mims is the other, and so is Troy Franklin. But like I said, someone's not going to make it.
Well, look.
Not going to make it.
What's his guaranteed money look like on that deal he just signed? I'm talking more from the person. At least you get a little bag.
I think it was just a 1 year. I think it's a vet minimum. He's the odd man out, clearly.
Yeah, I think naturally, right? But I think at the end of the day, guys, it's a win-now move for a win-now team. right? Like I think that's why Broncos country was so frustrated about the first week of free agency. And you see like the Romeo Dobbs of the world, and obviously there's still Stephon Diggs and Deebo Samuel out there, but like you just felt like this team needed another playmaker, whether it was that receiver, tight end, or running back. Obviously they have not addressed those other two positions here as of now, but you're getting a guy in Jaylen Waddle that you expect to not only make an instant impact in this team, but a guy with a really high upside to take this offense to another level, Cody.
Yeah, you look at his production, especially in Miami. Look, a few years ago, they were one of the most explosive offenses in modern.
Hung 70 on Denver.
Yeah, we all remember, unfortunately, that. I mean, his first few seasons in the NFL, you saw as a rookie, he had 1,000 yards receiving as a rookie. The next year, he had like 1,300 yards receiving with like 30 to 40 less receptions than he did as a rookie. I mean, he was averaging 18 yards per catch in that season, and dealt with a couple of injuries here and there. He's never missed really any significant time, but he's arguably one of their best players. And certainly that dynamic in Miami, when you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jaylen Waddle, and you had a really good run game, it allowed that Dolphins offense to really thrive, where now you're coming into a situation in Denver where you have a really good receiver in Courtland Sutton. You need, and that's been the thing here, the Broncos need a playmaker that can just be a difference maker against zone and against man, or that maybe forces the defense to change how they decide to cover you offensively. This also, I think, allows the Broncos to maybe, if they can fix their run scheme a little bit, if the run game gets going, this opens up the offense significantly for Bo Nix and this team. And I also think that it gives more one-on-one opportunities for these other guys like Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant to go out there and make plays, right? Because if defenses try to take away Jaylen, well, maybe you get one-on-one coverage for Courtland finally, right? Or if they focus on Courtland, maybe Jaylen eats in zone and man. And then your other guys are going out there and making plays as well. There's still some things that this offense obviously has to improve upon this season, but man, this is a needle mover for them in a time where the Broncos believe that they have a roster that can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a lot of different good points, right? Because I think Courtland Sutton is going to see a ton of one-on-one coverage moving forward. Now, I don't think you can't consistently defend Jaylen Waddle one-on-one, and I think what you're getting here with Jaylen Waddle rather is a guy that is a yak machine, right? The yards after the catch, turning upfield,
blowing up, brother.
My mic's blowing up.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking while I fix that.
There we go. So to even further this, because Nick also, as well as we talked about defense. Today's NFL, right? People are like, you don't just simply run cover three anymore. You may run cover three or cover two to one side of the field while playing man on the other. With the too high shell in today's game, it certainly makes it, I think, a little more easier for defenses to try to create a game plan that allow defenses to thrive. But let's talk about it from a coverage standpoint. How does a player like Jaylen Waddle maybe change that dynamic here?
Well, you were just talking about it. It opens up the field and create more spacing. And I don't care who you are as a quarterback, you love that. And now it puts somewhat of a stress on the defense when you have to decide, okay, well, am I going to run fire zone? Am I going to run cover two? I'm going to run maybe a single high safety with middle close. All of those things factor in, but each one of those coverages has its stress points. Now having multiple wide receivers, you can put a lot of stress on every single defense, no matter what they decide to run. And oh, by the way, let's talk about the foot quickness of number 10. And I know it was said before, there's not a lot of individuals who like backyard football. But as a former defensive guy, I love backyard football because it stresses you the hell out defensively, because now you have the element of vertical passing game, and your quarterback, once things starts to break down, he can take it and run a la a Josh Allen.
Is my mic working now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Good point.
No, I think you guys make a lot of really sound points, and I think the term that you use, Cody, is needle mover. Like you could also use like difference maker. Like it's just what this Broncos offense needed. And I know, Nick, you and I went back and forth last year about we want to see maybe a little bit more from them offensively, putting up more points, right? I think Jaylen Waddle is just going to be that extra layer that opens things up for Courtland Sutton. That really, you know who I think is going to benefit a lot from this move is R.J. Harvey, because teams aren't going to stack the box as much and try to stuff the run because of what they now know Denver has on the outside. And R.J. Harvey, theoretically, might get the weakest pass defender when he's running routes out of the backfield as well. So there's a lot of trickle-down effect with bringing in a true game-changing wide receiver in Jaylen Waddle, Cody.
Yeah, no, there is, and I'm so curious to see how Sean Payton, he might have a house of horrors, vision, like pick your poison here for Denver's offense, and I'm curious to see as well, like, how this empowers a new play caller in Davis Webb, right? Like, what does this do for him? But you are right. I mean, it just depends on, like, hey, we like this matchup, and I'd say one thing about Sean and how deep he goes into the game plan, the preparation in terms of how much film he watches. He's watching film and he's trying to figure out, hey, what is the one matchup that we can maybe try to force and we could take advantage of? I mean, last year, it was Courtland was the number one guy, right? We all knew from the year prior, Bo's rookie season, third down, you know who was going to? It was going to number 14 because that was Bo Nix's easy button. And then other guys, you're trying to bank on wide receiver play to, step up when Courtland's seeing that extra attention. Defense has now shifted to bracket cover in Courtland and saying, you know what? We're going to stop the run. We know Denver can't run consistently on us. And when they pass, they're going to try to go to number 14. We're okay with maybe letting Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant try to beat us in the passing game. Defenses were willing to take that gamble because that was more favorable to what they wanted to do. Now you have, obviously, and we know Sean moves everybody around. Nobody just plays X. Nobody plays just Z. It's, hey, everybody's got to learn X, Z, and all the other positions that Sean ultimately envisions for these guys. But now you have situations where, let's say, like if I was calling a defense against Courtland and Jaylen, Nick, I'd go two-man under. I'd go two-man under because I had the two safeties over the top. I can play underneath, press coverage, get my hands on these guys. But then there's the gamble, right? If you try to take away Courtland and then with the safety in the corner, that's where Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, the expected acceleration of their development, that's where you can win some of those matchups. That's where you can get RJ Harvey involved. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy to guard these guys. And I think that Denver, this is, as I said before, a needle mover for them. But it makes them, not as one-dimensional as they were last year. And I'm excited. And look, take away those 30-plus drop passes, add Jaylen Waddle to the mix here. I'll tell you what, I like the production. He has, 353 catches in his career, 26 of those catches are touchdowns, 253 of those, in my opinion, or 226 of those were chain movers for a first down. So this is a significant addition here for Denver.
Yeah, 373 career receptions for Jaylen Waddle, over 5,000 yards receiving. His first 3 years in the league went over 1,000 yards. Last 2 seasons, a bit of a step back, 744 in 2024, but he did deal with some injuries. And last season, 910 yards, and we understand kind of what last season was for the Miami Dolphins, and 26 total touchdowns for Jaylen Waddle in his career, Nick.
Yeah, that is all true. And here's what we're on the precipice of is with the addition of Waddle, now Courtland Sutton becomes wide receiver number 2. And in my book, he's going to become a possession wide receiver. And here's why. When you look at why Waddle was acquired, and we have to go back to last season at the trade deadline, there were some whispers that maybe the Broncos were in on Waddle then, but the deal wasn't what the Broncos wanted because the Dolphins wanted a lot more, even though the Broncos gave up a nice little haul for Waddle. But Waddle is a vertical threat. That speed is something that you definitely need to kind of push that safety back. And let's be totally honest. I mean, after the knee injury by Courtland, he hasn't really been that type of guy. And when you really look at him, you just say, okay, well, if you are defending him, you could possibly defend him with one DB. Obviously, ball placement plays a factor into everything as far as whether he comes down with those passes. I would also include that we've seen Courtland Sutton win on a lot of 50-50 balls. But if you're saying that it is weak preparation and you are the opposing defensive coordinator and you have 14 and you have Waddle, you're going to give Waddle more of the attention because he has that game-breaking speed. And I'm not saying this to take anything away from Courtland, but once again, why was Waddle kind of acquired in the first place? To kind of give this offense somewhat of a level of explosiveness that they haven't had in a while. And remember, Sean said this, not my words, and I'm going to paraphrase here. When Sean was asked about the wide receiver room, he said, we good, right? We good. Right. But I don't think he thought that they were that good, because if he thought that, they wouldn't have gone out and made this move to acquire Waddle. And this is what the Broncos are thinking, going back to that game we saw at the beginning of the year when the Broncos lost to Drake May and the Patriots. They are not where they need to be. There was something missing in the explosive passing game, and they might have just acquired that guy to help them out.
Yeah, I think it's just another layer to this offense, and you bring up Courtland Sutton, right? I think we all agree that Courtland Sutton is a very steady receiver and has been a safety blanket for Bo Nix throughout a majority of his career, but I think it's a change of pace with bringing in Jaylen Waddle. Like, this is a guy that's going to go out and get yards after the catch, can turn the ball upfield. Courtland's good at those 50-50 balls, and he kind of catches the ball and goes right to the ground, right? So I think Waddle just playing alongside Courtland Sutton just brings you a different dynamic in the passing game that you can beat teams multiple different ways. And we'll dive into this, of course, throughout the rest of the program. But, like, I think this is huge for Troy Franklin. I think it's big for Marvin Mims. I think it also kind of puts pressure on those guys of, like, okay, you're going to get different looks. Right, exactly, good pressure. But overall, it's just a real nice breath of fresh air that I think this Broncos offense has been lacking for quite some time, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have a player like this. It changes the dynamic of maybe how you call plays as well. And I also want to say, too, and this is something I continue to highlight, like the passing game. Look, Bo Nix had the most passing attempts in the NFL last season. You don't need that to be the case, right? This addition, I don't think so. This addition will allow the Broncos, I think, to be more balanced, right? And I do think that their run game will be better this season, knock on wood, and that room stays healthy. But if that does happen, I mean, this is an offense that we're talking about that could put up points, that is probably going to avoid leading the NFL in 3-and-outs and the amount of punts that they certainly have. The fact that Denver's offense, even though it hasn't been great since Sean Payton has come in, it has been better. It has gotten better year after year. And there's been so many missed opportunities in the run game. There's been so many missed opportunities last season with all the drop passes. That problem is going to go away, hopefully, knock on wood. Hopefully it challenges things. I mean, that's why the Broncos, they went out and they got a new wide receiver coach who's going to teach them to catch with their thumbs in versus out here in terms of where the ball is placed. This, I like this move. This is for them. And once again, and I did an episode of Locked On where we were talking about this. Like, Sean Payton and the Broncos, before this move, opted to say, you know what? We're going to bring the same roster back. 71 of their 90 players were on the roster last season, right? That played a handful of snaps for them. Now you're in a situation where you added one of these key pieces, and we'll talk about how the draft capital impact a little bit later. But now you're looking at a difference in how they approach it. Last year, Sean Payton believed that this team had a roster that could win a Super Bowl. He said that in training camp. That same roster is back. Plus, you've added now a key piece. This is pushing the needle in a little bit. I'm for it.
Yeah, no, I'm with it 100%. I think it's a great move for the Denver Broncos, and that's a good little segue for us. Let's hit our first break. When we come back, let's kind of compare and contrast Jaylen Waddle to some of the other options that were out there for the Denver Broncos. We've also got a bit of an update on the Broncos' level of interest involving A.J. Brown before they made this move. We'll talk about that next when we come back right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, real quick, let me tell you about the fine folks over at Indeed, because workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inboxes overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, and location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking with you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed-sponsored jobs. Again, spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing those candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show, yes, you listening to this show, will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So just head over to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. Be sure to check out our friends over at Indeed and let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. 3/4 of the squad here. Sayre, Bedinger on assignment, but we got Aniello Piro Cody Roark and Nick Ferguson breaking down the Denver Broncos trade for Jaylen Waddle. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. It really helps us out here on the channel. And guys, look, Nick, I think you brought it up earlier in the show. We know that Denver had kicked the tires previously on trading for Jaylen Waddle. That did not materialize at the trade deadline. I'd actually be very curious to know what that package was, because Denver essentially gives them a first and a third, and then they're swapping a fourth-round pick. I just wonder what it would have been at the deadline. But I
know what it was.
Are you allowed to say it?
Yeah. I mean, it was a different regime. That regime wanted 2 first-round picks, a player, and a third, which would have been way too much. And that, I mean, the Broncos, look, people need to stop falling for these little fake accounts on Twitter, or these guys that really do not know anything about it, that have like the avatar of a player saying that Sean Payton said no, like he vetoed it. No, Sean Payton wanted to trade for Jaylen Waddle. They just didn't want to pay that price, rightfully so. Could you imagine if they would have gotten rid of at least 1 player, 2 first-round picks, and a third? That would have been terrible. And that's coming from someone directly close to Waddle that I have talked to, right? That is what the asking price was according to people in the know on that situation. Now, I mean, that's insane. I would have never done that. Like a first and a third and a player, I might have done that. But this value here that they got, I'm already seeing people say, oh, Denver got robbed. How did they get robbed? Like, let's talk about that. The 30th overall pick is so far in. Like, you're essentially, it's almost a second rounder if you qualify in that way. Like, you're not getting premium talent necessarily with the 30th overall pick. You're just swapping. Okay, Denver's picking 30th in the third round, 30th in the fourth round. So it's second to last pick in those rounds. Okay, you give up the first, you give up the third, and you give up the fourth, where essentially you're just swapping force with the Dolphins. The Dolphins are picking 11th overall in the fourth round. Denver gets that. Plus, they still have the 4th round pick that they got from the Saints trade. So Denver actually comes out pretty damn good in this deal, and they're only, I think paying somewhere up to like $5 million for Jaylen this season.
Yeah, I think it's a great move across the board. And to your point, Cody, it's essentially a second-round pick. And this is considered by all the draft gurus and experts to be a weaker draft. It's not like last season's draft where you're getting all these good players end of the first, second, and third rounds, of course. And so I think it's appropriate. Like I said in the first segment of the show, it's a win-now move for a win-now team. What type of game-changing player are you drafting at 30th? We saw the Broncos draft Jahdae Barron last year, and sure, he had a couple of nice moments, but he played less than 10 snaps in the AFC Championship game, right? So it's like, I don't want to say miss on Jahdae Barron because I think the book is still not written on him. But
he's a good young player.
But you didn't get a game-changing impact from Jahdae during the course of the season. Correct. Is what I'm trying to say, right? And you still got to the AFC Championship game. So what makes you think you were getting a guy that was going to step up in here and make that type of an impact at 30? So I think that makes a lot of sense for Denver. And also, guys, I love the team control that Denver has here with Jaylen Waddle. They have him signed for the next 3 seasons, 2026, 2027, 2028. He'll become an unrestricted free agent, I believe, in 2029. I also think this deal runs parallel to that of Courtland Sutton, so it gives him some flexibility here, just 3 years of knowing this is your guy as a part of the core, Nick.
Well, here's the thing, man, and the business of football, man, it's a cruel mistress. And what we're seeing is that here's a couple of things. Now, you mentioned the fact that the Broncos are going to have Waddle on contract for a couple of years, and that's going to run parallel to that of Courtland Sutton. So they're already telling you. See, when we hear coaches talk, you got to understand coach speak. And sometimes they tell you, oh, yeah, we love this guy, whatever, until another guy comes along. So if Waddle stays healthy and we see him build chemistry with, Bo Nix as though we anticipate, that means that's going to start to push Courtland Sutton out of the mix, and they're going to look to trade him. It's just the way the business works, man. No disrespect to Courtland, but this is the way the business works. And the reason the business is going to work this way, because you got to think maybe after this season, the Broncos are going to have to think about what they're going to do with, Bo Nix contract, right? So you can make a move like this because Bo is still on a rookie deal. At some point, the rent comes due. And when the rent comes due, hell, you have to pay it. So right now, the Broncos are in their window, and they're trying to use a guy like Jaylen Waddle to kind of propel them forward, which I expect the stats will definitely be there. But this move says, a whole hell of a lot. The other thing that it says too, guys, is that the Broncos, as much as they said that they were content with this wide receiver room, they were not content with the route running. I mean, Cody brought it up himself. When you look at the number of drops, this wide receiver group, 43. Jacksonville led the entire league with 45. Right? So they want to change that atmosphere and the chemistry in that room. When you bring in a guy like Jaylen Waddle, it should make every single guy in that room take their game to the next level, because now they're looking around saying, which one of us could be out of this mug, right? So it is going to make everyone on the offensive side of the ball, especially that wide receiver room, that much better. But also, it's going to make the defense that much better itself, because you're going to have superior route running. And that is something, and anyone can get mad about it. If you know a player, they get mad, they can at me on social media, but I'll tell them, hey, what do you think the team did? They were trying to tell you your route running and your catching was not that good, that they had to go give out a first and a third and swap forwards to bring in another guy from outside.
I think there's also, adding a different playmaker while hoping that your younger guys can develop. Look, as long as Sean Payton is the head coach, Courtland Sutton's not going anywhere. Sean, that's Sean's guy. Sean values him significantly.
About that, Cody?
I'd put money on it today. I'd put money on it and my right nut. That's not going to happen. But here's the other thing too. Courtland's more so at the point now where I think when his contract is set to fully expire, he may, if he has if he wants to play a couple more years, I think he will. But I think ultimately Courtland is on track to retire as a Bronco where he's at. And this is a guy who, look, and keep in mind, over the last 3 or 4 years, every year teams have called saying, hey, what's it going to take to get Courtland Sutton? Sean Payton, the Broncos, said, we're not trading him. We don't want to trade him. They were more interested in trading other guys. They got rid of Jerry Jeudy because of the things that Courtland brought to the table. In today's NFL, you need Courtland's size and pairing that up with a skill set of a guy like Jaylen Waddle and some of your other guys there. And once again, too, I think even people are pointing it out in the comments, just the level of selflessness that Courtland has as a teammate, like what he's willing to do. You never really see him have poor body language. He's just got to keep growing, keep grinding. I don't think he's going anywhere.
See, Cody, you know what? I'm going to push back against that. Look at NFL history.
Yeah.
How many top players that we saw in their prime that we said they were going to retire, right, with the team that drafted him? Remember, we thought Jerry Rice was going to be in that situation. Nope, didn't happen. Remember Joe Montana? Nope, didn't happen. Emmitt Smith? No, didn't happen. So it sounds great to say that. Until another team sees someone else out there that is cost effective and their production is slightly better than yours. So it's great to say this. And guess what? Who's to say that come draft day, because the Broncos have given up that 30th pick in the first round, that they can't be contemplating something right now to say, you know what? We need to find a way to get back in the first round. And that might require the trade of, I don't know, someone you have on your roster. So this move by Jaylen Waddle puts so many things in play where I still think there's still another plot twist, an M. Night Shyamalan plot twist still out there.
Well, the M. Night Shyamalan plot twists are hit or miss. Sometimes they're good, sometimes not so good.
The Russell Wilson deal was a great example of that.
Yeah, I'll thread the needle. I think obviously Courtland's safe for this season. I would say, like I said, Jaylen Waddle is here for at least 3 more years with this Broncos team. I'd go as far to say that I could almost guarantee Courtland will be here for at least 2, if not more. I think you got a couple of seasons of this Courtland Sutton, Jaylen Waddle pairing just to see how it kind of plays out. And then we'll see if Troy Franklin progresses. We'll see how Pat Bryant blossoms as well. So there's a lot of questions that I think will be answered sooner rather than later. And hopefully, frankly, the Broncos win a Super Bowl before they even have to get to a decision on a Courtland Sutton or a Waddle extension or a Troy Franklin extension or anything like that. I do want to just bring this up. Diana Rossini reported a couple of hours ago, because I know there was a lot of Broncos fans, Sayre included, that were kind of beating the drum for A.J. Brown. This is what Diana Rossini reports. She says, despite speculation, I'm told the Denver Broncos never showed interest in trading for A.J. Brown. They always had their eye on Jaylen Waddle. Sean Payton and Bo Nix have a new receiving threat. So, Cody, it never really feels like A.J. Brown was in the picture for this Denver Broncos team.
I think they had interest in him at some point. I don't know if it was in the last week, 2 weeks, or even a month, but I know at one point they had ideas of maybe exploring that with the Eagles. all due respect to Diana Rossini, I don't necessarily take everything she says at face value. I think there are other people out there that I probably trust a little bit more.
Get out. Shots fired.
Oh, no shots fired. Just like history. Like, all due respect, Diana Rossini. She's not on my trustworthy list right now of things that are getting reported. When there have been things that have happened that literally have never played out the way that she has said it has. But all due respect. Anyway.
But I understand. Understand really quickly why you're saying what you're saying about Diana Rossini, because most teams will say, hey, we had our eye on this particular guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say that's coach speak, because if there's a talented player that's out there, you're going to kick the tires. You're going to make those phone calls. You're going to try to see, well, can we come up with the deal that's kind of feasible for both you and for us? And I'm sure just like the team was in on A.J. Brown, but the price was too high. Just like they were in on maybe Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker. But it just don't work out because you can't get on the same common ground as a team that's holding that particular player. So you move on to the next available guy. The same thing happened with J.K. Dobbins last season, and the same thing happened with J.K. Dobbins this season. So when you finally make that choice on the guy that you want, you're going to say, well, we were eyeing him the whole entire time. Think about what happened with the whole Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby thing with Baltimore, right? They say, oh, we were after both players. No, you were not. No, you were after Crosby, and then you found out Trey was still out there, so you had to make some maneuvers and do some things, and then said, well, we were after both of these guys, so let's pump our brakes, and Cody is right. No disrespect to Diana Rossini, but we know what we know.
Yes.
Well, let me rephrase it then. Are we happier with Jaylen Waddle at the price they got him at than bringing in A.J. Brown at, say, a similar price?
I feel like AJ.
Is this the better move?
I feel like AJ Brown would have definitely cost more. I feel like you probably would have had to give up a player for AJ. I mean, that's how Howie Roseman kind of rolls a little bit. Howie has been known to fleece teams, and they've made some of these moves in the offseason that are like, wow, the Eagles roster got significantly better, but they fleeced this team in the process. I mean, that has literally been the theme for the last 4 or 5 years with the Eagles. I like the Waddle pick a lot. I feel like A.J. Brown would have been a great addition, but I love the A.J. Brown. Also, folks, he would not have wrecked the locker room. Let's stop with that garbage narrative just because you read Twitter. I'm in the locker room. Nick's in the locker room every freaking week. We know what that locker room is like, and we know talking to players how they would feel about A.J. Brown. But Jaylen Waddle is going to be a great locker room guy. You're not going to have any on-field worries with him as well. He's going to fit seamlessly in. I imagine he and Pat are going to probably be locker mates at this point. This is a great move, and the price that Denver paid. People keep saying Denver got fleeced. I freaking disagree. I think this is a great value, pun intended, deal here for Denver.
Yeah, you saw. I think it was it Waddle that posted the screenshot of him and Surtain on FaceTime together. Obviously, they go back to Alabama.
They're childhood friends too.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, they're childhood friends. So
love that.
That dynamic obviously plays into everything as well. I mean, the Broncos knew what they were getting. I mean, they consulted with Surtain on like what type of person that Waddle is. I mean, they knew all that information firsthand. I mean, this was an easy move where the Broncos not only getting a great player on the field, they're getting a great player off the field as well with that, and it's upgrading that room significantly. I mean, this is a great deal. I'm stoked about it. I mean, this is it's got the loins going here today. I'm fired up. I wish Sir Bedinger could be here because this dude was all over the place, like wanting the Broncos to make a move, and they weren't there.
Yeah, no, and I think it also provides a little bit more clarity to their overall offseason strategy. Like now, I think I feel a little bit better about bringing back Dobbins and Singleton and Sternad because I feel like they got a real game-changing player. Like if they would have gone out and signed Romeo Doubs, right, who I think is a nice player. I don't think he's Jaylen Waddle, right? So, like, by addressing wide receiver in a big way, it also makes me at least feel a little bit better, Nick, about the other moves that the Broncos make, which was just getting the band back together, for lack of a better phrase.
See, unlike you and some of the local media and fans, I like what the Broncos did, bringing back Sternard and Alex Singleton and J.K. Dobbins. My only hiccup with what the Broncos did in free agency had to do with their tight end room. I don't think that they got value at the tight end position, even though those guys are not on lucrative deals. But I like this trade that the Broncos made, because if you were to go after a guy like A.J. Brown, which the Broncos did, but the price was too much, and Howie Roseman was sitting in a position of power because he's got a quality receiver who know that he can catch the ball anywhere you want it on the field. But also, well, A.J. Brown, unlike Jaylen Waddle, was part of a Super Bowl winning team. So that adds value to that particular player. With Jaylen Waddle, he's a great player, but he's not coming off a Super Bowl winning team. If he were, the price tag for him would be much higher. And now this is where the value comes in, because you say you gave up a first-round pick, which Jaylen Waddle is a first-round pick within itself, and you gave up a third-round pick, right? Yeah, you know what? You never know what's going to happen with that third-round pick. But when you talk about pure value, I think the Broncos receive pure value. And this was one of those positions that we talked about, fellas, that, well, what does the Broncos need to upgrade? You know, we talk about linebacker, running back, and wide receiver was one of those groups. And, oh, by the way, the Broncos still have picks where they can go up and still add more competition to that wide receiver room and other positions. So I like this pick. There's great value there. The potential is there. And you just think about what the offense could look like. And when they first line up, you got Waddle, you have Evan Ingram, you have J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, right? You got Courtland Sutton. And then now we're saying, okay, well, who's going to be that other impact receiver? Will we see Marvin Mims get more touches, more targets? I would love to see him do that. Or will it be Troy Franklin? Because when we really think about the wide receiver competition, those two guys, Franklin and Mims, they're going to be competing for that third receiver spot, because the targets, man, I mean, it's only one football, fellas. One football, and which guy is going to receive the most targets? But I like what the Broncos have done thus far.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Let's hit a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about how Jaylen Waddle fits into this offense with quarterback Bo Nix. We know that it's a big season coming up for Bo off the injury, year 3 in the NFL as well. He's trying to get a bag. How does this move impact Bo? We'll talk about it next when we come back right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. All right, you guys, real quick, let me tell you about the fine folks over at Robinhood, because what if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You are no longer just a spectator, play-by-play. You decide, trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the United States. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swap trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Be sure to go check out our friends over at Robinhood and let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Hope everyone is doing well out there. It's going to be like 70 degrees today in the Mile High City, so the sun is shining here in Broncos country after they make the big move here for Jaylen Waddle. Again,
I'll tell you, there was an omen today.
Okay,
there was an omen today. I got up this morning. I was getting ready to go to the gym, and then all of a sudden my AirPods were dead. And I was like, that's weird. I usually charge them. They're usually not dead. And so I had to put them on the charger. And I was like, all right, once I charge them, go to the gym. And then bang, the news happened. So it was like telling me like, hey, you shouldn't be at the gym when this news happens. So I like to believe in the 1 + 1 = 2. The stars do align there. So
see, there's that M. Night Shyamalan plot twist, man. See?
Yes.
Well, I wish I was just like you, Cody, because I was in the shower when the news broke. And I got out of the shower, and I was like, why is my phone just, like, blowing up? And I'm like, oh, my gosh. Like, of course. I'm, like, getting ready to the day, do this show, got to do other stuff here at the studio. And so I guess, there's two sides to every coin, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. It's been crazy, but you know what? Here we are. We got a lot to talk about. This is a fun day, man. This is why I love the industry. You live for days like this where there's a big move, or there's just something exciting, and I know, like, hey, it could work out, it might not work out. Like, we don't care about that. We're just excited about the move as is, because we'll let everything play out. But man, the optics of this thing, whew, it's exciting.
And you were just chomping at the bit for something, right? Because we expected hopefully a move or two in free agency, and that still could very well be the case. But like when you didn't get that after an offseason that was hyped up to be, pushing their chips all the way in the center of the table and opportunistically aggressive and all that kind of stuff, and to kind of be, I guess, deflated after the first week was frustrating. And now Broncos country and all of our awesome listeners here are rewarded with the Jaylen Waddle trade. So let's talk about it from Bo's perspective, because I feel like we've hit really nicely on Courtland Sutton. We've talked about Troy, Marvin, RJ, JK as well. But the guy throwing him the passes has got to be the happiest person in the room, I would think. No, Cody?
Yeah, I think he's even more happy. He loves the guys that they already had in that room. And the fact that he was able to make some things happen despite, some of the drops, some of the issues, obviously, that Denver had last season. He's competitive, but he loves those guys, and he wants to push them to be their best. But now, here's where I think Bo Nix benefits the most, right? Because of his foot mobility, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier. When he gets into these scramble drill situations, Jaylen Waddle is the perfect player in a scramble drill situation here because of how shifty he is, right? He can run a snag route, sit there, all of a sudden pressure, makes Bo move out. He knows exactly where to go. That's where I think maybe you're going to see a huge upgrade or an uptick in success is when the Broncos do get into those scramble drill situations here. I guarantee you he's going to be the number one guy to go to. Now the question is, does little Jordan Humphrey give up number 17? Does he maybe go to a single-digit number here, Waddle? I just know that whatever number that Bo Nix is throwing to, whatever Waddle wears, I feel like it's going to pay off well. And to make a comparison, we were talking about A.J. Brown last segment. Think about what Jalen Hurts had in Philadelphia. When you talk about, okay, look, they had Dallas Goedert, they had Saquon Barkley, right? They got two tight end running back, very important pieces. But I think people don't talk enough about the wide receiver duo they had there. The A.J. Brown, and they obviously had Devonta Smith, right? Courtland Sutton, Jaylen Waddle, very similar in terms of size, dynamic route running ability. You're going to get that type of archetype here in this Broncos offense. I think Bo Nix is over the moon about this.
And let me say this, and I don't mean this is disrespect, but it was Tua Tagovailoa throwing him the ball, right? And we've seen what's happened to Tua. We've seen what's happened to Tua the last few seasons, right? So I mean, just going from Tua to Bo Nix, Nick, is a massive upgrade at the quarterback position, regardless of what you think about Bo. I know we all subscribe to Bo being a good quarterback. I know there's some fans out there, not Broncos fans, but NFL fans that are still a little 50-50 on Bo. But I think anyone with a brain that has watched the sport of football knows that Bo is a far better quarterback than Tua, and that should trickle down to Jaylen Waddle.
It sure should. And with all due respect, Aniello, you meant disrespect of Tua.
I tried to preface it. I tried.
Yeah, but once again, let's just keep it real. Bo is a better quarterback at this stage than Tua. Tua may have some opportunity with the chances in Atlanta of changing that narrative. But right now, Bo is definitely a better quarterback. And I agree with Cody. The fact of that your quarterback can get on the move, that changes what you do in the back end as far as defense is concerned. Because here's what we both know. You may have your guy covered, but then there's a scramble drill, and the first thing defenders do, they take their eyes off of their guy, and like a moth to a flame, they're looking at the guy with the ball in his hand. And like Deion Sanders would often say, you see it thrown, you see it caught. So with the ability and the route running of Jaylen Waddle to just kind of convert routes, it changes a lot of things. And 2 segments ago, we were talking about, the perfect defense to probably play against this Broncos offense, and Cody brought up cover 2. Now, we saw Kansas City last year do the same thing with Spagnuolo, and no one could get open until Bo was scrambling to his right side, and it was a critical 3rd and 14 type of play. And guess who broke free? The only guy running routes who decided to break free, it was Courtland Sutton. So now you have another guy who can actually give the Broncos offense that extra element. When your quarterback starts to scramble, they know how to get open. And I'll say this. I'll say a name that most Broncos fans don't really like around here, but it's Russell Wilson. When Russell Wilson was a member of the Seattle Seahawks, what was one of the things that both the quarterback and the receivers did well? Here comes scramble drill. And that meant nightmares for opposing defenses because those guys knew how to take shallow routes and go vertical routes and come back shallow and flash their hands and their numbers and become a target for the quarterback. So I see numbers going up for Bo Nix. I see numbers going up for Courtland Sutton. Hell, I even see numbers and targets going up for a guy named Evan Ingram, who was projected as being a joker last year, and he might be the joker now. Now we can take him out of Arkham Asylum and just put him back on the field.
You know what's crazy about like people trying to move the needle that we always see on Bo Nix? People are like, Bo didn't have the year he had as a rookie. He had a better year. He had a better year. And certainly at times there were areas where Bo could have been better. But my God, literally the last thing that we saw from Bo Nix was him putting the freaking team on his back, down 27-23 to the Buffalo Bills, finding a touchdown to Marvin Mims, breaking his ankle and still leading them down the field to set up the game-winning field goal. Like Bo Nix, the dude is a baller here. But we talked about earlier, 30-plus drop passes by this Broncos wide receiver room. And how many of those were downfield passes where it's like, oh, my gosh, like you catch that, like it's crazy. Bo finished with 3,900 passing yards, 3,931 to be exact, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. We saw Courtland Sutton last year drop at least 2 or 3 touchdowns. We saw other guys drop touchdowns as well. Bo Nix, you take away, like we can go through and say like, man, out of those 30 catches, if those actually get converted, what was it? Bo lost somewhere around 300-something yards through the air on drop passes. Well, guess what? Bo Nix would have passed for 4,200 yards last season. Unbelievable. When was the last time the Broncos had a quarterback that passed for over 4,000 yards in a freaking season? Peyton Manning was the last guy to do it here. And I'm just so excited for this upcoming season because year 3, Bo Nix is hungry, got a chip on his shoulder. He's got his guy, Davis Webb, calling the plays. He's got all these receivers that, that he believes in now. Whew. If you're a Broncos fan, you should be excited, man. Like this is exciting times here in Broncos country. Bo's going to be so much better here. And here's the thing, too. You guys even were talking about it, about paying him. The Broncos, after the season, can give Bo Nix an extension. I don't know if they will, though, right? Because think about it. After the season, he still has another year left on his deal, right, in 2027. You have the club option in 2028. Right now, Bo's cap hit is $5 million this year, $5 million next year. He doesn't count. He counts for like 1.69% of the overall league cap, which isn't a lot there. And then when you give him an extension, let's say it's going into 2029, you give him a 4 or 5 year extension. Well, guess what? You have so much flexibility. Even then, you're extending the runway because the first couple of years of his deal are not going to have a high salary cap impact on your roster. This, I think, is the Broncos playing the smart game, and I'm very curious to see how they do it. And think about it this way. They got 10 picks right now set for 2027 in the NFL draft. Plus, they could get 2 comp picks because of JFM, PJ Locke leaving. In my opinion here, the Broncos, they might have been thinking ahead in this whole entire approach while still adding a key playmaker.
And that 2027 draft is supposed to be loaded.
Better.
Right? Like a really good draft class. So, I mean, the fact that you give up 2026 draft picks for Jaylen Waddle now, I think you're spot on, Cody. I think they're thinking ahead. They improve in the short term and the long term as well, but they get instantly better, and they can still build for another day with those 2027 draft picks that they do indeed have. So, okay, let's hit our final break. When we come back, I have a question for both of you about Jaylen Waddle. We'll break that down next right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show.
Ooh, wow.
That was a good one.
All right, welcome on back into the program. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, Nick Ferguson, Sayre Bedinger on assignment, but he will be back with us sooner rather than later. You were talking about how Broncos country should be pumped up. Well, I've been looking at the live chat during this show, man. I mean, every single Bronco fan, Dennis, everyone that's commenting, Turtle, like all of you guys are the absolute best. Vicky's in the chat, right? And we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Michael's in the chat. No Darian today. I figured Darian might be just going crazy. He's usually always in our chat
right now, man.
Yeah. So everyone that's in the chat today, and really most of the shows, right, is always optimistic about the Broncos. But today in particular, you guys have been pretty fired up, so we appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button if you have not already, and we'll keep the conversation going. So let me put on my journalism hat for just a moment. Let me just try to be objective. And the question I want to ask you is there any, I don't know if concern is the right word, but Jaylen Waddle's always played next to Tyreek Hill essentially, right? And we know what Tyreek Hill is. We know how impactful he's been throughout the course of his career. Is there anything in the back of your mind that again, I think concern or worry is too big of a word to use in this situation, but how do you think Waddle fits now alongside Courtland Sutton as opposed to having like a tried and true speedster and just a dominant receiver like Tyreek? Like, does that factor into this deal at all for you guys?
I mean, somewhat, but I feel like it's two entirely different situations. I feel like, each of those offenses, like Denver compared to Miami, they had different strengths and weaknesses, right? I think with Miami, even though the Tua is not necessarily great, they had a really good run game. They had a really good run game, especially with Devon Achane.
Yep.
They had a combo. I mean, they ran all over the Broncos in that game. But Tyreek's speed certainly was a factor. But Tyreek hasn't been the Tyreek that we used to see in quite some time. I think really it was 2023 that season, and specifically against the Broncos. That was the last time we really saw Tyreek be Tyreek, right? So I don't think that's necessarily going to be too applicable to Denver's situation. If Denver can run the football well this season, I do think with the balance of Davis Webb, I think there's going to be better run-pass balance. I don't think it's going to be heavily leaned towards Bo Nix throwing 17 times in the first half and them only running it 4 times. I think it is going to be very balanced. I think Denver's going to be in a good spot. I do. But then again, it's like we don't know. You want maybe some things to go right from an operation, a schematic standpoint, but that is like not in the control of Jaylen Waddle here in this situation.
Right. Nick, what say you?
I'll say this based on my prior experience, that, speed is a priority when it comes to wide receiver position. Does it help if you have 2 burners? Absolutely. But you don't necessarily need 2 burners in this case. I've been around Rod Smith and McCaffrey, and those 2 guys were my teammates, and they were not burners. They were excellent route runners, but more importantly, they blocked well in the run game. And then I was around Javon Walker and Rod Smith. Then it was Rod Smith and Ashley Lee. So you have one guy playing off the other, like Starsky and Hutch, if you want to talk about duos. And the addition of the speed of Jaylen Waddle, it definitely enhances all the things that Courtland Sutton can do independently. But here's the thing. Here's where the rubber meets the road for me. And over the past couple of years, watching Sean Payton's offense operate, and we have to see if things change with Davis Webb. Sean throws the ball to run the ball. And being around Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan, they run the ball to throw the ball. You see how there's a difference in the philosophies, but here's the other part of it, and this is where the tight end group and the wide receiver group definitely have to improve, because if you want to run the ball well, your guys on the perimeter, they better freaking block, because, Mike Shanahan and Kyle were the same people. If you don't block, you don't get the rock. And I remember when Pat Bryant was drafted, and we had him on the show there at the Broncos facility, and I brought that up about that was something that was a huge part of his game when he was in college, the ability to block and drive guys off the ball. And he said this, and I quote, "No block, no rock." And that has to be the mentality of all the wide receivers, including Jaylen Waddle and that illustrious tight end group. If you don't block, we're not throwing you the damn ball.
Pat loves that. That is Pat's mindset too. I think Pat Bryant, honestly, is in such a great position right now because of how good he is as a route runner. And people were like telling me that I was wrong when I said, like, I think Pat Bryant will be the Broncos' best route runner just from a technical standpoint because he's so attention to detail. He doesn't have everyone's making a big deal about his 40-yard dash time. It's like, that doesn't matter. This dude can create separation because he knows how to shake defenders. He knows how to run routes. He's clutch. He's got really good hands. I think the addition of Waddle is going to make things even better for him. But, this is also a selfless group that love to block. Pat Bryant, go back to the Cincinnati Bengals game. This is one that came to my attention here. He blocks to free up Marvin Mims up the left sideline for a touchdown in that game. Like, this is a dude who loves to block. And now he's in a position where not only is he going to get more opportunities, man, he's going to open things up as well for this offense.
Yeah, and I think he's a good locker room fit as well. Like, I know we talked about A.J. Brown a little bit earlier on the program, and, as we were doing this show, we saw Courtland Sutton. I saw it on social media here right now, posted on his Instagram story, like, let's go, with, like, a bunch of exclamation points. So I think that tells you all you need to know about how these wide receivers in that skill position room feels about adding Jaylen Waddle. Because sometimes, maybe guys are a little off put. They're like, they're bringing in this guy. They don't think I'm good enough, right? We've seen that mentality kind of play out in sports, not just in the NFL, but in other sports as well. So the fact that Denver is seemingly embracing Jaylen Waddle with open arms, I think is a great thing, man. And I just think at the end of the day, it's a really, really nice fit for this Denver Broncos team. And I'm excited to see what he could do. I really am. I think it's a difference-making move for this team. We want to give a trade grade out before we get out of here, and then I got another question. You don't want to do no trade grades? I put it on the rundown. So,
my man, I was going to say, I can't grade something that hasn't happened yet. Right? Or that the trade has happened, but we can't grade it until we actually see.
But off of value, and swap. I know we've talked about that. I think we all give him a pretty strong grade in that capacity.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. I'm like the former teacher in me too. Just doesn't like handing out grades that easily.
Fair. Well, let me rephrase.
But I'd say it's a great trade. Great trade.
Yeah.
Great freaking trade.
Let me ask you this then. Is this the one big move of the offseason? Eventually Denver's going to sign another free agent, or I guess sign just a free agent or two, as they haven't really done yet from an outside perspective. But, do you think there might be more to come? I know Njoku's still out there. Is this the one big swing from the Broncos this offseason, or do you guys envision something else coming?
I don't see another move really coming. Not like another move that's going to add an impact player. I think very much they're just going to focus on the draft, adding some players and some pieces and maybe some positions to solidify depth. I mean, maybe. Some people are going to say David Njoku. That would be nice, right? Wouldn't it, theoretically? But considering what they just gave Adam Troutman, they have Evan Ingram. David Njoku's not coming to Denver. Come on now.
I would agree.
As nice as it would be, I don't see that happening.
But here's what I would say with the signing of Jaylen Waddle. It signifies to other free agents that, hey, listen, the Broncos are really pushing their chips in at the center of the table to try to make another run. And during my time as a member of the Denver Broncos, Denver was a free agent destination. Players wanted to come here. Then it was like that 8-year run. It was like, no, we're not going to Denver. It was like kryptonite. So with this move by Waddle, and a lot of other free agents still out there, gentlemen, this may have some of those players to tell their agents, I want to go there. I know I'm not going to get as much money as I hope, but I want to go there. And the reason I want to go there is because guess what? They can possibly take me to a place I had never been before, which is the playoffs for a lot of players because they haven't, but also the Super Bowl, which is in Los Angeles. So don't be shocked if there's another move and the Broncos pick up another guy and the contract is kind of an average deal for a guy of veteran experience, because now the Broncos, or the Denver Broncos that is, they've now become a free agent destination.
A team that was in the AFC Championship game, right? They're a Bo Nix injury away from probably being in the Super Bowl. I think everything you're saying there, Nick, is certainly tracking. And we'll see what the Broncos do. I see we got a comment here. Remember what happened in 2013, right? You see them bring in DeMarcus Ware. They get Aqib Talib. Aqib Talib was spot on with his take from yesterday that was going around social media as well. Yeah. So maybe it is the start of something. But I also feel I shouldn't say a lot more comfortable. I always liked the idea of bringing back the Sternads and the Singletons and the Dobbins. It's just if that's all they did, that's where I would have had a little bit of trouble. I think making this move for Jaylen Waddle, I think, provides a little bit more clarity for this offseason, Cody.
Yeah, I also think, too, as well, I wonder if, Cam Jordan went on Teron Armstead's podcast yesterday, right, and said there's 3 teams. I think Denver's one of those teams. And if they were somehow able to add Cam Jordan to kind of replace JFM, and then you rotate, obviously, Savion Jones and Yomo Uwazurike, yeah, that's pushing the chips in all the way. I think Cam Jordan would be a great addition at defensive end here for Denver. Maybe it happens. And I wonder if this also influences Cam Jordan, right? Because he said that it's got to make sense from a role standpoint, the ability to get after the quarterback. The Broncos in back-to-back years led the NFL in sacks, quarterback hits, pressures. That bodes well for him. But now that they've made the addition of Jaylen Waddle, it's hey, we are serious. This is a team that is really trying to push everything in to go win right now. Cam Jordan says, you know what, I can go help that team. I would be on board with that. He didn't play people forget. This dude almost, what was it? He had 10.5 sacks last season, and he didn't necessarily have as much of a role as he previously has, because obviously as you get older, you have to be very careful during that. So especially with the Saints, they also shut some guys down the stretch last season. So Cam Cam Jordan will be a needle mover defensively as well. Like if their big offseason moves, gentlemen, were Cam Jordan, Jaylen Waddle, I'm saying, you know what, the Broncos win in the offseason.
That's a big W. Here's a hot take, and we can debate this on Friday if people get really fired up about it. Give me Cam Jordan over Von Miller.
Well, yeah, because you already have 5 outside linebackers. No,
right, but I know
I love Von.
Yeah.
But where's Von going to play? You're not going to uproot your guys that could play for you here in the next couple of years that are developmental guys that you really like. That, as we saw, Denver's outside linebacker room is probably the deepest in the league. And all these guys can get after the quarterback and play. Unless Von was willing to play defensive end, which I don't see that being the case. That's not Von's role at this point in his career.
I think Cam Jordan would just be – that would be awesome because then you get a real playmaker on offense. You get a playmaker on defense as well, and you're running it back with the band, and you just love the Broncos' chances at that point. Bo Nix in year 3, new play caller, right? A lot of good momentum here for the Broncos. But we shall see. At the end of the day, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Trading for Jaylen Waddle was a massive step in the right direction. Nick, any closing thoughts before we get out of here, my friend?
Yeah, my closing thoughts is I'm glad the Broncos made this particular move. Is just wondering what else do they have up their sleeve. There has to be another card at play because this team cannot be done, even though they know, hey, listen, we're running it back. We have a lot of certainty and confidence in the players that we brought back based on what they did last year, with the exception of the tight end room. I can continue to toss that out. But I love what the Broncos have done thus far. But I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's got to be another move, and that move might take place during the draft.
Cody.
I'm excited. Look, if this is all they do, there we go. Let's rock and roll. He will not have to be paid in 2027, Jaylen Waddle. I know our chat's popping off here. They have complete flexibility. He's not going to have to get paid in 2027, probably 2028, 2029. But no, big move. I'm excited. I don't think they're going to really do anything significant. I think if there is one more significant move, like I talked about, probably going to be Cam Jordan. If not, I'm very curious to see what they do in the draft. This is the time to add depth pieces. I think specifically at linebacker. I think inside off-ball linebacker needs to be the priority. But folks, what is it? We're March 17th. We're just about almost a month away from the NFL draft. It's April 23rd, and the Broncos. I'm excited. Let's go. Let's get it rolling.
And I know we're going to have to do some draft conversation, but I'm so happy that we're not going to have to sit here and just be like, who are they going to take with the 30th pick, right? Like, I don't mind all of that conversation, but we're spared some of that. And now it's like they use that 30th pick to get Jaylen Waddle. And we can have some fun with some supplementary depth pieces as well. But
yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right, good stuff today, gentlemen. The chat, you guys are the absolute best. Do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe button on your way out the door. Sayre was texting us in the middle of the show. He'll rejoin us sooner rather than later as well. I know he's fired up about the move today. But Jaylen Waddle is officially a Denver Bronco. We'll be back at it again later this week with some additional reaction. Until then, enjoy the day, Broncos country, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out, y'all.